Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you've all recovered from the Athena Hackathon weekend. I know that we just about have. It was really great to see everyone, really great event. As mentioned over the weekend and kind of throughout the course of last week, we are very keen to make sure that Athena doesn't just stop at being a hackathon. We're looking to grow the community, we're looking to have more content and continue these conversations. So very, very excited to be joined by Erika from Deliveroo. Just before I pass over and we get to the good stuff, as ever, if you need anything during the session, let us know in the chat. If you're watching retrospectively, you can ask us on Discord, and you can always go and follow the Deliveroo Hub on Showcode as well. So I'll put links in the chat for all that. But yeah, let us know if you have any questions. And Erika, over to you.
Thank you, Alex. So hi, everyone. I'm Erika. I'm an engineering manager at Deliveroo. So I think I understand that most of you are very early in your career. So you're probably not thinking about becoming a manager yet. But if being a manager is something that interests you, the sooner you start preparing for it, the better. So hopefully this talk is going to give you a bit of an idea of what is it to be a manager, the good things, but also the not so good things, because I'm an honest person, so I want to show you all the areas, because this job is very rewarding, but it's also very hard sometimes. So if you're going to switch one day, you should understand every part of it, not just like the nice ones. And also, if you don't like what you hear today, maybe management is not for you. But I think even if that's the case, I'm hoping that this talk can give you an understanding of what your manager do, understanding them a bit better, and give you an idea of what they're doing while you're writing code or doing other tasks, and what they do, the things that they do. But before that, let's talk a bit about myself first. I think I don't know if there is a delay in the slide, so hopefully you are seeing the same I do. Oh, I swear this is not done on purpose. This was not intentional. I'm wearing the same thing. So becoming a manager is not something that happens overnight. And if you're going to be a manager, you need to understand the job that your team is doing. So for that, you need years of experience of being an IC first. In my case, so I studied computer engineering in Spain, where I'm from. That was many, many years ago. After taking my first job in Spain, it was not a very rewarding job, to be honest. But after that, I moved to Dublin, and I worked in a small startup for 2 years. This startup, they didn't pay much, but it was a really good opportunity for me to improve my English, although some might say that I'm still not great at it, and also to learn Python, among other things. After that, I moved to London, and I've been here for almost 11 years now. So finding a job in London with no previous experience in the country was not easy either. So I did contracting for a while. But temporary jobs are not for me. I do like feeling part of a team and owning the products and the things that I work on. So changing jobs every month was not really what I wanted to do, even if it paid better. And also, I don't think that it was very compatible with my long-term plan of becoming a manager. So a few months later, I finally found a job in a startup that was in very early stages. I joined them as a backend engineer, and actually I ended up being there for 5 years. Same as my job in Dublin, my first job. I think remember the pay was not amazing, but again, it was a great experience. I learned a lot about new technologies, and after a few years, I became the tech lead of that team. So I think it was a really good intro into management. And also, thanks to this experience, 4.5 years ago, I passed the interview at Deliveroo, and I joined them as a software engineer. So in Deliveroo, so I remember during my first one-to-one with one of my first managers, the manager at that time, he asked me typical question of what do you want to do short and long term? And usually for some people, that's a difficult question, but for me, it was very clear. And maybe not in the near future, but in the long term, I knew I wanted to be a manager. So I've been working, or I was working on since until I got here. But first, I'm talking about this was 4.5 years ago. So first I needed to focus on becoming a better engineer and improving the things or the areas where I thought I was a bit weak, let's put it this way. Things like how to design systems, how to work on the architecture side of things, how to build systems that are more reliable. So I focused on that. And after 2 years, I got promoted to senior engineer, which also Deliveroo is the minimum level that you have to be a manager as well. So it was kind of like perfectly aligned. Um, so a year later, so I stayed as a software engineer, senior engineer for a while, because as I said at the beginning, you really need to learn about the job to be able to manage people doing it. So I stayed as a senior engineer for a while. And a year later, I moved to the Plus team. So this is a team that supports Deliveroo Plus. I don't know, for the ones that are not familiar with us, Deliveroo Plus is like Amazon Prime, but for food. So you pay once a month and then you don't pay for delivery. But it is a lot more than that. I'm not going to enter into this topic, but it is a bit more than just that, obviously. So it's in this team where I transition into management. My manager offered me this opportunity to take over, and I've been a manager in this team for 1.5 years now, more or less. Also, 3 months ago, I was promoted to engineering manager 2, which basically means I'm no longer a junior manager. So I guess that means, I don't know, I'm doing something right. So that is roughly my story from uni to today. I usually don't go into much detail when I give a talk, but I thought in this occasion it would be good to share it with you, so you understand that your career is a long run that is going to take you through many different stages, and that most of us don't start working in the big companies making lots of money from day one. But with hard work and patience, you can get whenever you want. And in my case, that was to be a manager. So why being a manager though? There's a bit of delay. Yeah, there you go. So the first thing that other engineers told me when I became a manager was, "Oh wow, congratulations!" But also, why are you doing that to yourself? So then by the time, well, some of them were just congratulations. So by the time I could tell whether these people were thinking about doing it as well in the future, or they just thought I was going crazy. But the thing is, for me, I like making things happen, coding, building tools. But after 13 years as an engineer, I realized that writing the actual code is not really what I find interesting and challenging. Um, well, don't get me wrong, I do love writing code. But at the end of the day, seeing a junior engineer writing that code or getting my team to deliver something together, it makes me way more happy. So actually, I don't mind not being the one that is typing, as long as I get involved in the design, the development, and the rollout process. And because I'm not writing the code, I get to be involved in all the projects that my team is working on. So that's really cool. Also, I've always been a lead, even when I was not planning on doing it. For some reason, I'm always the one that ends up helping others, coordinating, etc. So at some point, I have to make the decision. And to be honest, I don't think I could have gone back to code 100% of my time. So I decided to become a full-time manager instead. This was a very big decision, though, and one that should not be taken lightly. In the last few months, I've been having a lot of chats with other ICs that are thinking about switching management now. And I always start with the same question: why do you want to be a manager? Because being a manager is not a promotion, it is a change of career. So you should never do it because you think it's the only way to progress. Actually, at Deliveroo, you don't even get a pay rise because managers are paid the same at the same level. So as I said, I was a senior engineer, which is the same as junior manager. So I didn't even get a raise. But yeah, being a manager is hard, but it's also very rewarding. So if you want to become one, you need to do it for the right reasons. So I guess I'm going to try to share some of the things that I do every day to see if that helps you with the decision in the future. So let's start with talking about the reports. I decided to make the transition within my current team. I read in one of the many books that I read about management that this is called the apprentice approach. I guess this is because you still have another manager with you in the team and you learn from them. This has its pros and cons, but I think to me, this was definitely the right choice. The main issue with this setup is that your peers are no longer your peers. They report to you now. So you can get along, but you can't really be friends with them anymore. There's going to be things that they won't feel comfortable saying in front of you anymore, even if you are the coolest manager, like I am, obviously. But also there's going to be other things that they're going to share with you that they wouldn't have done before. Things like, I don't know, medical conditions or personal problems. So I think it's very important to establish boundaries from the beginning, not just with your reports actually, but with everyone, with all your other friends that are ICs. In my case, for instance, I had been at Deliveroo for more than 3 years when I switched roles, and I have some really good friends here. But now sometimes I'm in conversations where their names are mentioned, for instance, during a calibration session in performance reviews, and I can't share that information with them. So I think this is fine as long as both parts understand that there are some boundaries and they respect them. So I haven't really had any problems with friends about that. Another example, my team has a private Slack channel that is only for engineers, where they talk about many topics and they run sometimes. So I was in that channel because I used to be an engineer in the team. And I realized that nobody was going to ask me to leave that channel, but the channel will not be the same with me on it. So I explained this to the team and I quietly left a few days later. And I don't know, as a person who suffers from huge FOMO, I missed it. But I think it was the right thing to do, and I'm sure my team appreciated it. What else? So some people will tell you that another con is that the team can see you as a manager if you were an IC before in the same team. But this didn't happen to me either. On the contrary, I think that because they knew that this is a difficult transition, they were very supportive and they helped me out. And because I already knew all the projects and the domain, getting up to speed was much faster than if I have to learn it. So to me, the key for a nice transition within the same team is doing it in a team where you feel comfortable, but not so comfortable that ICs are your best friends. I mean, I don't think I would want to manage any of my friends. So next is the one-to-ones. So 3 months after I transitioned into management, I did a talk that is very similar to this one that I'm doing today. I even reused some of the pictures, but it was only 3 months of learnings. And in the previous slides, when I was talking about reports, I remember saying that one of my biggest fear as a manager at that time was to run out of topics during a one-to-one, like getting into a room with someone and not knowing what to talk about. Well, I can gladly say now that this is no longer a problem. I can even have whole slide dedicated to just this topic. Because working with my team is what made me switch to management. So one of my favorite part of the job is obviously the one-to-ones. The way I see them, they get a time for my reports and they can decide how to use it. So sometimes I have things that I need to discuss with them, but most of the times I let them decide what they want to talk about. Also, they can cancel if they want because the time is for them, but I never do it myself, unless I go on holiday, because I guess I'm still allowed to do that. Most of the times also, so usually we overrun, but sometimes we finish earlier. And I learned during this year that is fine. Also, everyone is different. Some people can prepare and have lots of things to talk. Others have none. Sometimes we talk about personal stuff, what we did on the weekend, maybe about the weather, and that is also fine. Also, I think in this new world that we live in, we had to get used to video calls. So it was a bit strange at the beginning, but it feels very normal now, I guess. Although I have to say that my favorite one-to-ones are still the walking ones, the one when we can just go for a walk around the river and just chat. I actually did that just this morning with one of my reports, and it was lovely. The not so good part, though, is that I have many reports now. So before we used to catch up every week, and now it's really just bi-weekly. But I'm always still available if they need me, though. But it's just not like a recurrent matter, I guess. The growth. So the best part of being a manager is having the opportunity to help my team grow, and that is actually the main reason that is the thing that makes me wake up in the morning. It's not an easy task though, because every person is at a different stage in their career and they have different needs. So helping them grow requires constant work and feedback during the one-to-ones. Also, I guess I have to say the hardest time of the year is performance review. For the ICs, performance reviews mean 2 weeks of writing feedback for their peers and also writing their own self-assessment, which, by the way, this is something that I need to do myself as well. After that, the ICs are free and they can continue with their normal lives, but the work of the manager has just started. So first, we need to read and summarize all that feedback that we wrote the 2 weeks before. Then we need to prepare the calibration docs that we are going to present for every report. Next is the calibration sessions. This is usually one session where all the managers in the group present the reports and they're rating the thing they deserve based on their job and their performance. Then as a group, we can comment on the case and we can agree, disagree. The idea of this session is to be sure that everybody's measured by the same bar and that nobody has an advantage or a disadvantage depending on the manager that they got. After that, it's not over. The last step is to deliver the results. So sometimes this can be very hard. For instance, if someone has got a low rating or has not received a promotion as they expected. On the other hand, giving promotion is the best feeling ever and something that makes you feel very, very proud as a manager. Not everything, unfortunately, not everything is good. No? So sometimes you're going to need to work with reports that don't perform as expected. So in this case, the first step is always going to try to understand why and try to help them. The reason could be as simple as they are just not good for the job, but it could also be more complicated. It could be something personal, could be some condition that nobody has prepared you for to how to deal with. And the hardest part is you cannot share this with anyone. Well, I guess you can share it with HR and your manager, but that's it. So hopefully in some situations with some working together, this person will improve. And in some cases, they even become a high performer. But sometimes this doesn't happen, unfortunately. And it can be very frustrating when you have done everything in your power and it still doesn't work. In my case, having this conversation is definitely the hardest situation I've been as a manager so far. But also, I guess, if you're lucky as I am, your manager and your HR peers will help you as much as they can, even if that means rehearsing the conversations with them, which is something that I've definitely done more than once. Okay, so now let's talk about the managers. Turns out they are regular people. One thing that really worried me about becoming a manager is that I thought I was not going to have friends anymore. I was talking, what I didn't think about was that I was going to be part of this whole new team that I didn't know before. So, which is the managers team. So, yeah, I left this channel that I talked about earlier, but I joined 3-4 more channels with other people that are actually experiencing the same problems that I have, and they can give me advice about many things that, yeah, I didn't think about. Actually, they even do like remote Friday drinks to relax and chill and talk about not work stuff. I did not expected that when I switched roles. I was also surprised to see that they actually care about their teams. I mean, well, I was not surprised because I wanted to believe that was the case. Obviously, this is why I became a manager. But sometimes I remember as an IC, it's easy to forget and assume that managers have their own agenda and they don't really care about their teams. But no, they do. Most of the conversations we have as managers are not about delivering projects faster, but about figuring out how to help our teams grow and keeping them happy. So, yeah, before switching roles, I did some courses and I read some books that I can also share later if you want, if you're interested. But really, the thing that helped me was talking to other managers. So, if you're thinking about doing this in the future, just reach out to your current manager, former managers, managers from other teams. Reach out to me if you want, and just try to get as many experiences as possible to be sure that you know what you're getting into. All right, teamwork. So the biggest part of our jobs as manager is teamwork. So first, we do teamwork as a team level. So our main task as managers is to get our team to work well together and to support them. But you have to do it by making them independent so they don't need you all the time. Actually, I truly believe that a successful manager is the one that can go on holiday and their team can still work without them. I did that actually 2 weeks ago, and it went, I think, too well, maybe. So I don't know. Maybe actually they don't need me after all. I don't want to think about that. But now, seriously, I think this is a very invisible job, and it can feel very ungrateful sometimes. So if things go well, I'm gonna let my team take all the credit. But when something is grown, then it's all on me. So if you're a person that like being in the spotlight and taking all the credit, you might have had a hard time being a manager, to be honest. Also on teamwork. So managers also do a lot of work outside of the team, not just within the team. That's the second biggest part of our job, improving things and collaborate to make the machinery of the organization work. Sorry about that. So I personally have a bi-weekly meeting with all the engineering managers in the company. That's actually going to happen today after this. And I also have a bi-weekly catch-up with only the managers of my group. So in these meetings, we talk about many topics, from how to support each other or how to change processes at the company level to make the work of the engineers easier. And everything we do, what I like is that everything we do it as a team and for our teams. There's usually not like individual work in here. And I really, really enjoy this because one of my worries when I became a manager was to be lonely and not to have enough support on a daily basis. And I think this is because I kept thinking just inside of my product team. That was my life before as an engineer, but the scope of a manager is much bigger than that. All right, so let's move to the hiring. So I genuinely thought that it was going to take longer, but no. 2 weeks after I switched into management, I was already all over LinkedIn advertising my team. Because the thing is, as an SE, I used to complain a lot about how much time I spend interviewing, but now I see that interviewing is the easiest part of the hiring process. Because hiring is not just about finding the talent. You also have to convince them to join you. You have to decide what team is better for them, who needs them more as well, which manager has the capacity to support them. And to do it all while trying to create a diverse team at the same time is pretty hard. For me, I think this is the worst thing about hiring. I really like my team, but when I started, they were all white male, mostly British. And even if I wanted to hire more diverse engineers, I couldn't because all the CVs that I got for review, they were the same pretty much. Fortunately, I have to say that now I have 2 female engineers that are amazing, and I also have one more joining. I learned about it today, and also have some male engineers that are from other nationalities. So my team is pretty diverse now, and I'm pretty happy about that. I have to say, if diverse hiring is difficult, don't get me started with hiring managers and even more diverse managers. That's what I really understand now why we needed managers so badly a few years ago. But I'm not gonna enter into that. Let's just move on with the next step, which is interviewing. So as I said before, interviewing is not the hardest part about hiring, but it is the one that takes longer. As a manager, I interview even more than what I used to when I was an engineer. So my specialty now is the behavioral interviews, which in my opinion is the most important step in our interview process. Because I don't know, if you don't know how to code like very well, I could teach you to do that. But I cannot teach you manners or how to be nice to others if you already don't know how to do that. So in my interviews, I don't look for ninjas or for rock stars. What I want in my team is people who are willing to learn and to work with others. So I enjoy interviewing in general. It is a great opportunity to contribute to the company in a positive way, and also to choose who you want to work with, which is very important. The worst part is writing the feedback, though. If I'm honest, I hate it. It takes too much time, but I do understand why we need it. So the next step in the hiring process. So the hiring process doesn't finish with the interview and the candidate accepting the order. Then they need to be onboarded. And this is crucial for the success of the person within the team. So I personally was doing onboarding already as an IC. This basically meant running a session to explain new joiners how we architect their system. And actually, I still run that sometimes. But as a manager, onboarding is more complex than just that. We need to integrate these new people into the team and make them feel welcome. But also we need to plan for their success, and we need to start working on their career progression as soon as possible. So actually one of my current projects outside of my team is to organize a bootcamp for new engineers to provide them with the better tools during their first few weeks. And I think this is becoming even more challenging now because we have started hiring a team of engineers in India. So on top of everything else, now we also have to deal with time zones. Um, so yeah, I think if you ask me what is my biggest concern today, I think I would say the India team and how to make sure that they are integrated in our teams and they don't feel left out because of the time difference. So it is a challenge, but we are working on it. Um, the unexpected. So I think this is probably the key slide today. So the main thing to expect from this role is that there is always more than what you sign up for, more meetings, more hiring, more reports. So we can use my transition is a really good example of it. So I mentioned at the beginning of the talk that when I switched roles, I took over part of my current team at the time. The idea was for me to take a small part of the team, and my manager will keep the rest, like I mentioned, like the apprentice way. So my manager will keep the rest, and we will plan very carefully with him who will be the best engineers to join my team, who will stay with him, and we agree of having 4 or 5 people for me in one small team to get started. So that was the plan. We went for it. 2 weeks later, a senior manager handed his resignation, and a manager who was also going to join had to delay the start date. So this meant that my manager needed to take more responsibility within the group, and he could not support the rest of the team anymore. So that 4 to 5 people in one team that we planned originally ended up being 12 people across 3 different teams. That's when I had been in the job, in the role for less than 3 months. Fortunately, though, a few months later, the new manager joined. He took over one of these teams, and later on, months later, another manager joined us too, and I could hand over half of the team. But not before I got to the point of having 18 reports. That was a bit crazy. But the thing is, teams growing and shrinking is something that happens a lot. I'm actually in the process again of my team to split it again. Um, so this team I had it for 18 months, and it's become too big now. Um, so yes, I'm gonna have to find, I don't know, another manager. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna have to split it in two. And trust me, giving up half of your team, I know is the right thing to do, but it's also very hard because I like them all. I like everything that we are doing, so it's gonna be a difficult decision. So in general, yeah, the other thing I think you need to get used to, not just team moves, but people coming and leaving. People will come and go very, very often. And I will always remember the first engineer who told me he was leaving us. He was also my very first report. And he insisted it had nothing to do with me. If anything, he said I was one of the reasons why he considered staying. I don't know if that was true. But to be fair, he got a really great opportunity to do something else, something that he really wanted to do. And actually, as his manager, to be honest, that also made me feel very happy and very proud. So yeah, I think with time, you learn that this is not something personal, that people will come, people will leave. It happens all the time, and it's just the way it is. Um, but yeah, I think overall, if I'm honest, I kind of enjoy the unexpected part of the role, and it's definitely keep me entertained. So I guess I'm just taking it as an opportunity to learn even faster. So finally, the fun stuff. So not everything is hard. Okay, when you are a manager, you can also choose the work to work on things that you really care about. It's not just about the teamwork with your team or the organization. You can also do real impact at an organization level. So usually every manager has at least one side project outside of their team. In my case, I mentioned earlier that I'm working on this new engineering bootcamp and also the onboarding for the engineers in India. So I chose these projects because I really care about the onboarding experience. And I think that the first step for our team is the first step for our teams to actually succeed. Another topic that I'm very involved is on call. So here at Deliveroo, we are engineers are on call 24/7. So I was on call back then, and I am as a manager as well. This is a very important part of our job but it can be very disruptive. So I'm always happy to get involved in any initiative that could make this task easier for everyone. And also, the best part, we get to organize team events. I'm a very social person, so I love to be able to gather everyone together and do something fun. So at Deliveroo, we do offsites once per quarter. And apart from spending the entire day together talking about work stuff, I also have budget to do something fun with my team. So far, if I remember well, we've done bowling, mini golf, we play darts, and well, I don't know. We've also done some remote stuff as well. Now that the times when we didn't have a choice, I guess. Um, but the best thing that I had the opportunity to do as a manager in terms of events so far was to organize a hackathon for the entire company. So this happened in November last year. We had just started to come back to the office voluntarily. It's still voluntary this day. And we thought the hackathon would be a great way to get back together and work together and see each other. So working in collaborations with two other managers from my group, Krishna and Ellie, you can see them there in the top right corner, top left corner of the photo. And with the help of many other volunteers as well, we managed to get the budget and organize a hybrid hackathon. So it was in person, but also remote for some of our employees in other parts of the world. And I think in total, we got more than 200 people attending. So yeah, it was a lot of work, but it was a fantastic experience. Seeing everyone working together to create their hacks, and then catching up in the pub and meeting some people face to face for the first time was really, really amazing. And I think it was a great boost for the team morale. So I wanted to finish with this picture that it was also taken during the hackathon, because I think it reflects very well my job as a manager. So most of the time, I'm just running around like a headless chicken, being confused and not knowing what to do. But also, I can always count on my peers for their support and their experience. And these were just two of the managers in my consumer group. And we always have fun when we do things, and we have time to be silly, even as managers, because we are people after all. So my conclusion is that being a manager is hard, but it's also very rewarding. So if you want to do it, I encourage you to give it a go one day. Just be sure that you do it for the right reason and not because you think it's what you should do to progress in your career. And well, I think that's pretty much it. I don't know if there are any questions, but if not, you can also, I think Alice mentioned that you can post some questions as well, and you can also find me on my LinkedIn if you want to ask anything. So yeah, feel free to reach out about being a manager, Deliveroo, or anything really. So yeah, thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Erica. You're even doing my job for me there at the end as well, telling about questions. That's great, just making my life much easier. And I think I was going to say I'm not sure there are any questions yet, so do let us know if you have any quickly. But as Erica mentioned, feel free to connect on LinkedIn or let us know on Discord. But the hackathon looked great, and I think that was a really interesting note. And I think obviously with Athena gone just this past weekend as well, some of the cool things you can do as a manager, and sort of, it's a lot of hard work obviously, but it's not all necessarily, one-to-ones and peer reviews, and that you can do some fun stuff as well. So thank you very much for your time, Erica. Really appreciate it. Thank you everyone for listening. If you do have any questions, let us know on Discord or connect with Erica. But enjoy your evenings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex.